Hello, my name is Rob Dyke. I work for a company, Tactics 4, and I'm here this afternoon for the next 30 minutes to talk about WardWare. WardWare is an open source nursing observations database which has been developed in partnership with King's College Hospital and Luton and Dunstable Hospital, primarily to provide the National Early Warning Score calculation for managing inpatient admissions and helping managing deteriorating patients in particular in a safe way, and doing all of that using a mobile device. This is a really cool piece of software, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about the software first, then we'll do a demo of both the mobile device and the desktop version of the full chart, and then we can talk a little bit about it afterwards. So here we are. This is the app. This is the main screen when it loads up on your device. If we scroll through some of the functions here, we can see that the Apple web browser has crashed in the first instance, so I might just press reload in order to get that to come up. We'll just have to wait whilst the 3G croaks its way through the network to us. So let me just click through that again. So when a nurse is using this on her mobile device or his mobile device on a ward, the first thing that they'll see is a list of patients that are on the ward for them. Now this information is coming from the Trust PAS, so it's fully integrated with the existing clinical systems in a hospital. So all the patients, as soon as they're admitted and transferred onto a ward, they pop up on here waiting for a nurse to do the observations for them. And we can see here that we've got a number of obs that we can do. We can start with the standard early warning score observations. We also are able to do fluid balance, blood sugar, Glasgow coma scores, and other scoring systems that I'll show you in a bit more detail next. As you can see, it's just it's a web app. We have a couple of boxes. We type in some information using all the native controls on the device. So we have the pop-ups there for entering any numeric values for the obs. And where we've got a scroll list, again, it just uses the standard scrolling mechanisms that either your Android or your Apple device will have for a list like that. And it gives some instant feedback. So the moment you put something in, if you need to be alerted to a high value or a low value or a value that you haven't put in, if you're not doing your observations or you've missed something out, it reminds the clinician to capture that bit of information, and you can acknowledge that alert quite easily just by clicking on the little X on the screen. And it validates all the data to make sure it's all within thresholds and values according to what your trust thinks are appropriate, fully configured, fully localized to each individual trust policy. And as I say, again, instant feedback there with quite clear pop-ups for the nursing staff. And the most important thing about capturing all these observations is actually then responding to them. So the last thing it does is, after you've done your observations, calculates the early warning score for you and then highlights the trust's policy for any given escalation that you're supposed to have based on the early warning score. So I think what I'll do now is I'll go in to the app itself. Here I'm demonstrating it on the iPad, so the screen is much wider, but when you're demonstrating it, when you're using it on a mobile device, it actually fits the full width of the screen and is a very easy interface for people to work with. So we'll select our ward, wait for the 3G. I probably won't say that again, but that's what we're going to do every time. Log in, authenticate using a PIN. We can integrate this with any directory system that the trust has. So if you have Active Directory, or if you've got some other sort of smart card way of accessing it, we can integrate this into WardWare. So instead of having yet another username and password for a system, you can use your existing pieces of authentication in the trust. 3G! Let's just log in again. So I've been working with one particular patient today. I've done quite a lot of observations, but because I'm not really a clinician, I haven't really been able to make this person particularly ill yet. So if we do have any clinicians here, if they want to shout out some values for this to give us a really high early warning score, then let's do that together as we do the observations. Have we got any clinicians in the audience? 1, 2, Wendy. Let's do some EWS obs for a sick patient. Blood oxygenation. One of the things that we discovered when we're developing this is that when you have a numeric impact like this, the keypad doesn't display a decimal point. So in order to speed up the device, the data entry for the nurse, we just put in the 3 figures like that. Because you're never going to have a temperature of 390, and the computer can insert the decimal point for us. But no, it's a good point. I mean, oxygenation. Respirate. Pulse. Pardon?
110. 95.
In a moment. We'll get to the oxygen obs and maybe some fluid balance as well. We could do a bit of that. Yeah, I am indeed. I've been at EHI all day, of course I'm confused. Irregular, and are they in any pain? Some pain? 2, a bit of pain, okay, fair enough. We'll do some oxygen obs next, but we'll just submit that information. This is very high temperature, but everything else is within threshold. So we're just going to submit that EWS obs. And as you can see, it's calculated that as 8. And now it's going to display the policy, which is that the obs are now set to every 30 minutes. It will remind the clinician to do those obs every 30 minutes. And we can audit on the punctuality of those obs to check that we really are managing our deteriorating patients properly. And as we can see there, confused came up, so we can do the Glasgow coma as well, and just quickly do their HbA1c if we want to just see where they are with that. And we can also, with the other obs, we can also do the full Glasgow coma obs here for them here. We can check all of that. It's quite a lot of obs for that one, so I'm probably just going to review and submit that just for the sake of the demo. So we've got all their information there. We can confirm. We'll just confirm that. We could also do their blood sugar quickly as well now. Do you want to give me and I happen to know that she's not a diabetic because it's my fictional patient. So we'll submit that information as well. And we'll just confirm that. Okay. So we've got all the observations in here, we've done that. We can just review those bits, those observations as well. We can see that here, tabulated data, quite easily color-coded. When you've got it in your hand, of course, it's a bit easier, it's right up close. If anyone needs to put their glasses on, they can do that. But as you can see along the screen there, we've got the EWS 8 at the top. We're following the colour scheme that the RCN, the Royal College of Nurses and the Royal College of Physicians have been advocating for their campaign recently about doing the EWS much more systematically in the trusts. And the algorithm behind it is actually at the moment using the National Early Warning Score algorithm. So I'm just going to log into the desktop version, or rather the pad version, so we can see the OBS chart as created from those observations and for this patient. So we're working with Madeline. I'll have a look at her chart. And as we can see, here's been our observations over the day, and we can track there the TPR chart for the temperature, the BP, blood oxygenation at the bottom. All of this is plotted. We can zoom into that information, see it in a bit more detail. We can zoom out again. Oh, come on, computer. Don't do that. We can toggle the data as tabulated as well. We have all these functions in here. We can also do fluid balance for the patient with it. It's one of the pieces that I particularly like. So we can capture all the fluid balance information as well. And we can also do devices as well. So if they've got a catheter fitted, we can add that in. And so we can do some audit over when the catheter was fitted, how long has it been in for, taking it out in the appropriate policy. Device history. Oh no, this person hasn't had any devices. There we go. Pardon? I should do, really, shouldn't I? Indeed. What else can we do along here? So, I mean, we've got so we have the patient profile as well. All of this information has been coming over from the PAS. We can see there the OBS frequency as it's been set to, who did the last observations, the early warning score at the bottom, and my prompt at the bottom there for when the next OBS are due as well. You can see the other history as well that's been for this patient. And quite importantly as well, on the right hand side there, you can see who's been doing those observations, which is good for audit purposes. Much better than a scribbled initial on a piece of paper. Come on. And not only the EWS obs, but we can see all the rest of them as well. And we can toggle these on and off. So if someone does a partial set of observations because for some reason the equipment was unavailable, or for some clinical reason that the patient was not able to, that you weren't able to take the observations from the patient, you can also log partial observations as well. Cool. So as I said, this is it's an open source project that's been developed at King's and is currently live. It was 3 wards when I was preparing for today. Last night it went live on 2 further wards, and King's are currently rolling it out at a rate of 2 wards a fortnight, which is certainly going to keep us quite busy for the next couple of months, as they've got 40 wards as they roll this out. Luton and Dunstable, it's been rolled out across the trust there as well, and we've been demoing it to a number of other people. And much like the OpenEye story that Phil was just talking about, it has that similar model of a clinician who was being failed by technology, who was able to code, led on the development of this at King's, and it's been created now into an open source project that we can release out to NHS organisations. And we are currently talking to a number of other people about getting them involved in identifying new features such as pressure sores, malnutrition scoring, falls risk, any piece of paper-based scoring or observation that a clinician does at the bedside for a patient. We can model this very quickly in the WardWare product and deliver it out on a mobile device for clinicians to be able to do that. So you've got full audit and full governance over all of those assessments that nurses are doing. I think one of the things that I'm particularly pleased with WardWare that it's been able to do is it's been able to sort of expose and sort of eke out aspects of variance within a trust. When we've been rolling this out at King's, we've discovered that in some wards there's been 3 or 4 different versions of the paper-based observation charts and the paper-based trust trigger policies. So just on one ward, you're getting different degrees of variance in the care and the management of deteriorating patients just because the paper isn't kept up to date. Whereas you have one version of one policy managed by a director of nursing or a clinical director for the trust. Here you're really going to make sure that across the trust you're delivering the same quality of care to every patient. So I've kind of done with the demo. I can go through it if there's anybody you want to see some more, or if you have any questions about it, then fire away.
Do you store data locally on the device?
There's no data stored on the device, so there's absolutely no problem if a device walks off-site of patient data being left exposed when it leaves the trust. So this depends on a trust wireless network. The WardWare application server sits within a trust. It's delivered as a VMware appliance, so it's all within the trust.
If the wireless goes down, how would you take conservation?
Well, this is one of the things that we've been working on with King's, and with Luton, to have some sort of business continuity plan. So one of the things we do, if the wireless network has gone down or if the EPR is down for some reason, then we have a system whereby a paper version can be created quite quickly showing all the last observations for a patient, and that can be printed out. Most trusts that we've been working with have a PC and a printer on a UPS, and they just print out the charts, they put them around the beds, and they can carry on capturing the obs. When you enter a set of observations for a patient, you can also set the time. So if you were doing a piece of some observations retrospectively, then you can capture that in, and it gets properly allocated, so you can see that you were doing the obs, even in the event of a power failure. So for hospital outreach people, can we get a ward at a hospital at once view? Yes, we can. I mean, here we have, this is a single ward view based on, and you can see all the patients and the EWS. What we've been working with at Luton in their operations room, they have a whole trust view sorted by early warning score. So the sickest patients are at the top of the list, and you can be sure that, and you can sort of like in sense real-time audit that people are doing their are doing 30-minute observations, or are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think one of the other things that they've been doing for the outreach team is if you have a trust dietitian or a falls specialist, at the moment someone is admitted, it pops up as a task for them to do, and they can go and do those pieces of assessment work, so you can audit how punctually you're doing that piece of work as well. So it'll also mean that when you're transferring from ward to ward, if you've got pressure sores or things like that, you can maybe capture that piece of information and capture it again as you transfer from ward to ward. So how is WardWare supplied? So when WardWare is taken up by a trust, they get a VMware virtual appliance which has the database on there and the web server and all the HTML code. They get a subscription to the WardWare core product, so all the bug fixes, and most importantly, all the modules that other trusts develop and define. They get subscription to those as well, and they can pull them down and release them into their environment. And the technology stack is a MySQL database at the moment. In the version 2 that we're looking at doing, we're going to put an abstraction layer in there, so you could put Postgres underneath it, or Oracle, or whatever. But also in terms of data in, so it links with the trust EPR or PAS using HL7 feeds at the moment, and we've just received an award from the ITK Information Sharing Challenge Fund to support the ITK ADT spec. So that'll be for data on the way in, and we're also setting up so you can have a feed on the way out. So you can take your data out of here and put it back into your PAS. Certainly at King's, we've been integrating with the iSoft Clinical Manager there to be able to store the last set of observations on discharge. Well, there's some on the WardWare website. We've got some links to an EHI piece that was done earlier this year, because WardWare was featured as part of the information strategy as delivering the paperless at King's, and it has some interviews there with the clinicians, the consultants, and the nurses. I mean, the nurses love it. Certainly the more student nurses or the newly qualified nurses are coming out of med school, and they have mobile devices. They have an expectation of being able to do things digitally, and they love this because it really does work well to be able to capture these things very quickly for them. This is Hugh, who has a vested interest in saying something good about it. It's his software, but I mean, yeah, it is easy for him. It's much more efficient, and yeah, the nurses do love it. So WardWare it's just web. It's HTML. It looks really good on an Android device. It looks great on a BlackBerry. It'll work on your iPad or on your iPhone. I recently did a demo up in Merseyside to their group of trusts. And in the room we had one of each of those devices, and I created a hotspot and put all their devices straight onto the hotspot, and they all accessed the WardWare app, and they all accessed it, and it was a really great experience across all of those platforms. So it doesn't really matter what device is. So if you're one of those trusts that is crazily going for bring your own device, then you could bring your own device and hook it up to this, and on your trust wireless network, and it would be fine. I think that's one of the things actually about the Apple product, is they are very expensive devices relative to other things. So, I mean, the latest iTouch device is what, 170 quid or something like that, and it does make it expensive. So you can't give it to every agency nurse that comes in, every HCA. You can't afford necessarily to do that. But we've been working on sourcing devices, Android devices, touchscreen, for about 40 quid a head. And when you start getting down to 40 quid, then you really can start giving one out to everybody. And then if in terms of charging them, you can have a bank of them, keep them charged up, and always have a pool of them. And I think one of the things that about this is it really quickly starts to pay for itself in terms of the benefits and the value that the organisation can derive from it. So at 40 quid a head, and you can get rid of all of these paper forms, you can improve the audit and the governance around it. So when you factor in the cost of the devices and the subscription and the support agreement for it and things like that, viz the benefits that you're going to realise of the trust, I think it really starts to pay for itself probably within the year. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions.